Britain is engulfed in its worst crisis since the end of World War II. Lots of people, I know, click on this YouTube channel because all they want me to do is offer hope. But there's no point me pretending that the situation isn't very, very bleak and very, very difficult, because it is. The last video I did was about Brexit, and it was before the referendum, a few days before. And in it, I predicted Brexit would happen. I thought it was inevitable. And I also predicted a series of disasters would occur. Now, I have no pleasure whatsoever in saying that those predictions are very much coming true.
I do not think it would be right for me to try to be the captain that steers our country to its next destination.
Whether that be the impending takeover of the Conservatives by its right-wing faction following the resignation of David Cameron.
But obviously, I respect that decision.
Whether it be a coup against Jeremy Corbyn, the prospect now of an early general election with a united Conservative Party against a Labour Party in crisis, whether it be
a second independence referendum,
whether it be the vindication of xenophobia and racism and their legitimisation as mainstream politics, and that's only, I'm afraid, going to get worse, not least because the pledges on immigration, which I said would not be kept to, and began to unravel almost as soon as the vote had come in.
It means free movement of labour. It doesn't mean EU citizenship with all the acquired rights.
I'm sorry, we've just been through 3 months of agony on the issue of immigration.
Whether it be retribution from the EU, which is terrified about its future survival.
And to some extent, I'm really surprised that you are here. You were fighting for the exit. The British people voted in favour of the exit. Why are you here?
What I could do, is I could just sit here and weep for the future of the country that I love. And I've already done that a lot, so there's no point me carrying on doing that, is there? And like a lot of you, I feel upset and I feel scared about the future. But, I don't want to be paralysed, and I don't think any of us should be paralysed either. I think it's important we galvanise now in order to do our very, very best, to save this country as best we can.
The total number of votes cast in favour of leave was 17,410,742.
That does include accepting the legitimacy of that vote. People voted to leave the European Union. We might not like the reasons why. We certainly, in my case, and many of you watching, did not like the horrible, ugly, official Leave campaigns. And let me make that clear. I'm talking about the Leave campaigns. I'm not attacking Leave voters. But a toxic campaign which has many, many lasting consequences. But we've got to make this work as best we can. Brexit is going to happen. That's what the British people voted for.
I'll never vote for him again because you aren't for the working class, because it's the working people who suffer.
This is, a long time coming. Working class people who feel they wanted to punch the political elite in the nose. They certainly have done that. And also many of the problems people face are seen through the prism of immigration. Now, as I've said, we have to have a rational discussion about immigration, but not in the ugly way it's been framed. And now, in the streets of our country, people are being abused. It's a very dangerous development which we have to confront. But what I want to do is suggest something. I want to suggest something constructive, which is this: to launch a new broad-based campaign, which maybe it's called Save Our Future or Operation Hope. Maybe these aren't very catchy names. Maybe I'd like you to suggest in the comments what this campaign could be called. And basically, it would deal with the threats I spoke about in the last video and would organise in communities across the country, bring in lots of high-profile people and veteran campaigners to build a broad-based campaign, because I think people now realise they've been shocked. And this is a wake-up call, and I think people have to be galvanised into action, because this is an existential threat to the country as we know it. This campaign would mean, for example, defending the workers' rights that are now under threat because they were secured as part of our membership of the European Union. Well, in the coming years, as we leave the European Union, they will no longer be guaranteed. The campaign would have to focus on defending our National Health Service, which already faces huge threats as it is. It would have to, as a matter of urgence, confront the xenophobia and racism that has now been legitimised, which has left children crying in schools because they fear they're going to be deported, which has left people from Europe who are living here and help keep our country running and ticking day after day after day with their hard graft, who are terrified now about the future.
Shocked. Sad.
I've got plans for my future and I just feel I've been ripped off from my hands.
It would have to be a campaign, above all else, that galvanise young people. It's the future of young people now most under threat, whether it be because, for example, of the economic turmoil to come, whether it be the emboldened conservative right and the policies they're now going to pursue. It's young people who I'm most terrified about. And of course, there's a huge problem with engaging young people in democracy. In the referendum, huge numbers of young people simply, of course, did not vote. Those who did vote voted overwhelmingly for the European Union, but if more had voted, then we wouldn't be dealing with the same result which we have today. That crisis in democracy of young people who just do not feel connected with politics. You know, they've got hopes and dreams and fears and aspirations, but it doesn't seem to them that politics is relevant to their everyday problems and insecurities and aspirations. It's a distant world full of people who don't speak a language they understand.
Those in Westminster and those in the city who have done everything that they can to transfer the wealth away from the vast majority of us.
We have to think of a campaign that can root itself in the lives of young people and give them hope and optimism and confidence to get involved in changing the country for the better. These are just my initial thoughts, but I know this. There's lots of scared and angry people out there. And I think it's also my conviction that as the consequences of this Leave vote become clear, that I think lots of people who voted Leave are going to regret it. Now, that doesn't mean we overturn the referendum result. We have to respect the verdict of the British people. But we do need to galvanise all those people, however they voted, who are now understandably increasingly fearful about the future and who will suffer the consequences of a Brexit government and the sorts of policies that it will pursue and the impact that will have on the lives of millions of people in this country. So this is a call to arms. It's to say, don't mourn, organise. You know, I've mourned a lot. I'll continue to mourn and grieve for my country, and I expect many people watching this will continue to do that as well. But that doesn't mean we give up. You know, 48% of us voted a different way, and our voices should be heard when it comes to how, you know, the path this country now takes. So let's unite. Let's turn the frustration, the fear that we all have into something more productive. Let's start thinking about this broad-based campaign to deal with the consequences of Brexit and do all we can to defeat those threats and build a different sort of society. So these are just my initial ideas, so please stay tuned, subscribe and I'll keep you up to date. But I don't want to just impose this idea on people. I want to hear your ideas. I want this to be a collective thing that we do together. But in due course, you know, I want to approach people, particularly people who I think could be influential, including campaigning organisations, which I think are rooted in communities that need to be at the absolute forefront of this. I'd like to get up a good website where people can get in touch. So this is just laying the initial foundations, but I want something that helps. You know, I don't want us all to be in despair, all the ones who aren't happy with the result for the next few weeks. So please leave your ideas on how you'd like the campaign to be, what you'd like it to be called. Please subscribe. I'll see you next time.